Welcome everybody to the season 2 recap, wrap-up Q&A for the first watch, season 2 Wasteland. My name is Andrew Coons. I'm the DM and the showrunner for our little production. And let's go around the horn real quick and introduce ourselves.
I'll start. I'm Benji Perez Gonzalez, and I play Hide of Beast and sometimes Luna. Yeah, that's me.
Hi,
I have a lot to say.
I'm Melissa Coons. I play Sikia Thonthway, the turtle.
Sweet.
And I am Joe Frank, and I play Gamorg, the half orc, not half elf.
Have you been a half
The other
elf
half
the
could
whole
be
time?
elf. We don't know.
Well, that's true. It could be.
I don't know.
At least one half it's orc, at least. So
Everybody always assumes the other half is human, but like doesn't have to be that way.
That's true. It could be anything. It could be half orc, half goblin.
Yeah.
That'd be terrifying.
This is the big season 3 arc for Gamorg, finding out what the other half is.
Who was my dad?
Didn't that come up during the season as well?
It certainly did.
It probably did.
It certainly did.
Awesome. Well, before we get into our conversation tonight, because it's just so badass, let's see that Wasteland intro sequence one last time. I love it. I love it. Music written by Joe Frank, as was all of the music during Wasteland this year. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But yeah, awesome score.
Thanks.
All right. So what we're going to do with this kind of wrap up is we're going to have a little bit of conversation. And then we're going to go round robin with some questions that we have for each other. We've got a couple of questions from viewers as well that I'll throw in the mix there. And then we'll give you a little preview at the end of what's coming up next for the first watch. But before we dive into all of that, couple of announcements to make here, some housekeeping to do. First and foremost, you can join us on YouTube on August 17th at 8 p.m. Central Time for a very special podcast premiere episode of The Inn at the Edge of Greenwood. This is our cozy roleplay podcast that has completed its first season, but we're going to be premiering a very special soundscape episode mixed by none other than our own Melissa Coons. And this will be a half-hour soundscape where we just kind of let you be immersed in the sounds and feel of the Inn at the Edge of Greenwood. Perfect for background, for studying or work or just having a pint. And then later this month on the 24th, the following Tuesday, you can join us on YouTube again for the premiere of our very special one-shot, Lamond and Hoki. This is a one-shot that is being DM'd by Connie Chang of Transplaner, and stars myself as Hoki Muckrib and Jeremy Cobb of Three Black Halflings as Dr. Lamond Bonnie Doc. And it is an awesome adventure where two artificers get into some shenanigans, and I mean, they got to save the world. So yeah, join us for that. But before, well, no, that was the before. Now it's the after. Let's go. So let's dive right into our conversation tonight. So Wasteland found Realm Shield, the three of you, and Luna, so the four of you, and Aravan, the cleric from Ferrith, so the five of you, all stranded somewhere way, way south of the kingdom of Alson after defeating the mage Meccan and stopping his plan to bring back the god of pestilence Stiff into some sort of golem type form that he was creating. That's where we picked up the season 2. So I just want to kick things off by asking you all, now with the hindsight that you have, having gone through season 2, coming into the season, what were your expectations for Wasteland, and what was maybe the same of what you expected, and maybe what was different, what ended up being different than what you had expected coming in? And anybody can jump in at any time.
I was thinking that we were going to be able to like leave right away. I mean, I didn't know that the season was going to be called Wasteland, so I thought that it was just like a 1 or 2 episode thing, and then we would find a spell, and it would be a scroll, and it would be that, you know. But it was kind of fun that we were just finding our way out, and that was kind of the adventure and the adventure along the way. So that was kind of neat, just rediscovering that whole thing was nice.
Nice.
I didn't have a lot of expectations being the new character. But I think I agree. I thought that it was going to be a pretty quick escape from the Wasteland after a couple episodes. I will say that there were some pretty surprising and shocking, or like maybe not shocking, but like very crazy things that happened. I thought like the interdimensional stuff that was going on with the planes, that was crazy. Like I did not expect anything like that. Being specifically in the desert with the storm coming and all the shapes of the monsters and stuff from other planes, that was crazy. I mean, that was legitimately like, whoa, this is like a movie. So that was cool.
Well, we say it's a cinematic actual play, so that's good.
Yeah, it was very, very cinematic. And then just the description of, I can't remember the name of the monster in the woods that was just very sad. The Lonely, yes.
Yeah.
That was terrifying. I mean, and that was the end of the episode. It's like, here's, this guy's got like a hook with a hand on it and all this weird, just grotesque. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was part of a series of monsters that originate in the Shadowfell, called the Forsaken. And so there's the Lonely, the Hungry, the Angry. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and they each have different mechanics built on those strong emotions. So the Lonely specifically was built on the idea of like everything about it like wants to bring people into it. Like it spears you and pulls you in and then does damage. And it actually has, this never came into play, but it actually has disadvantage if there isn't someone within 30 feet of it. So it's almost like an absorption type creature, a little bit like a gelatinous cube type fight, but with the ability to pull you in versus a gelatinous cube. So that was super. As I was just flipping through the book, like trying to find interesting things to run up against you all, when I came across that one, I was like, this is, both super creepy and super mechanically interesting for a group that, needs to have a good balance of like people who are long distance and people who like melee. It kind of gives everybody a challenge. So yeah.
The Lonely was fun, but my favorite monster was the Home Depot skeleton. That was such a fun fight, even though I couldn't hit anything. And I mean, I don't think a lot of us did.
It absolutely was the Home Depot skeleton. It was completely inspired by that.
So fun. It's like terrifying. You guys played Ocarina of Time. Do you remember the big skeleton? Well, the tiny skeletons and then the big skeletons. That's what I thought of.
Yep.
That was epic.
Melissa, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Benji. I expected us not to be in the Wasteland the whole time, but it was, there was a lot of unique challenges for all the characters, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun having all the guest stars on and all the characters coming in, and of course our new character Gmorg, having him join the team was really fun. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. We're gonna do a little bit of round robin style questions here. We've all got some questions. I got a couple from other folks that I'll throw in. So we'll kick it off with Benji, and we'll go Benji, Melissa, Joe, me. Benji, do you have a question for the group or a specific player or myself?
Dude, I have so many questions. So, like, in average, how many questions are we gonna get to ask? Because I want to make sure that I have like
let's plan on 3 or 4 a person, and then we'll see what we've got for time.
Okay, cool. I kind of want to know. I mean, like the most burning question I have is who or what is inside that ring that Meccan was wearing, remember? And then we forgot about it until like the second to last episode. And then it was like, oh my God, who is that? And like we took it off right away. And then we didn't find out anything. So I just kind of want to know if we can get a little hint of who or what that was.
Very much still something that could come into play in season 3. So I can't give away too many spoilers.
Sure.
What I will say is that the properties of a magical item, like it's in practice and in reality, it's not like when you identify a magical item, you get a card that tells you everything about it. And you were told all of the information about that ring secondhand through Erevan. So whether or not Erevan told you the whole story or rolled well enough himself to understand everything about the ring is perhaps to be seen. The last person wearing it was Meccan. So we'll see what that means going forward for that ring of mind shielding.
This is not a question. I don't want to talk a lot, but I'm just thinking about it. Was Erevan like the mastermind behind all this? Because I was assuming that he got corrupted by like a book, but maybe he was the one that like set all this into
still a lot of questions there. We'll go over in more detail some of the stuff from episode 11 and what Erevan told you. There's certainly some mysteries to still piece together in season 3. Yeah,
I never liked him.
Melissa, you have a question?
Yes, this is for the DM. Will we see Nerdy again in season 3?
I know that Mr. Nerdy is excited to potentially come back and join us as his wonderful, warm and fuzzy character, Killian Dane. But it'd be interesting to see what that would look like. Would he continue to be hunting you? Would you learn more about his particular goals? He said he worked for a different organization that was trying to save the world. You never got information on what that was. He was after a halfling that had the same tattoos as the one that was at the tower with Erevan. So the idea of what faction he's working for and who's working for who is something that I think probably will come up in season 3, which is going to be a really fun thing too, just to divert a little bit. Season 1 and even season 2, the premise was very much we're keeping our lens narrow on these 2 and then 3 monster hunters. We're looking at the story through their eyes and only knowing what they know and whatnot. And I think both for them and the audience, season 3 is going to begin to broaden that lens a little bit as they get swept up into bigger things and meet more people and are split across the continent. It's going to be, I think that there will be a lot of Tetris pieces falling in place for you all very quickly.
Cool.
Dude, I really hope that Nerdy joins us again because Matt is an excellent guy, and also because I want to kick his butt so bad. Like it was such a unique situation that it was like the nighttime and a bunch of cover, and he could fly everywhere. And I can't wait to get him in the open.
Something tells me he's not going to let that happen.
No, he and I had some really good conversations around his character and creating someone who could be a challenge in a 1v3 fight. And yeah, he very heavily optimized that bounty hunter and did a great job with it. And gave you, I mean, it was one of those things where like war of attrition, you would have eventually got him. But no, he definitely gave you all a run for your money.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, so kind of circling back to Erevan, that was my biggest question, especially I rewatched the episode when it premiered. And
yeah,
it's like, I think in the moment, Gamorg and also Joe were very confused with what was happening in the tower. And then Stikia was like, we're not doing this. We're not bowing to this guy or these guys or whatever. And then at that point I was like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But so for me, and also, I mean, well, yeah, for me right now. So what was Aravin's deal? Like, because he, I felt like I was getting mixed signals because he talked about Stith as being like bad and stuff. And when Hyde accuses him of kneeling before Stith, he got very upset. He did not like it when he was accused of that. So like he clearly doesn't kneel or he doesn't bow to Stith as like I serve this god, but like
right,
he wants to use him, I guess. Is that the
not exactly? And so that in the conversation, you know, the way the conversation naturally flowed during that scene, there were places where it kind of like we kept coming back to things and you never got like a linear like this happened then this happened then this happened then this happened. So to give you a little bit of that, after you left Aravin at the beginning of the season and left him there with the books, he continued reading, and it very much was a Ginny reading Tom Riddle's diary type situation where he eventually found a book that would have been the same book that Meccan had read that created a connection to Stith and allowed Stith to begin to speak to him. What he did say, though, was that Meccan was not strong enough to resist Stith. I was. So Stith began speaking to Aravin and asking him to basically continue the work, and Aravin resisted. And at that point, through magical means you don't know about yet, the council found him and kind of rescued him from that situation. Now he joins the council. He gets looped in on the plans to break the planes on their own terms. And so it's this interesting situation where you have multiple parties wanting to break the boundaries of the planes of existence, but in different ways and for different reasons. So there's not like a very clear, like, oh, this is the one side, this is the other side. There's like all these factions in gray area in between. And very much it's not just the what, it's the how that matters in this situation. So Aravin still very much he doesn't want Stith to get through. He doesn't bow to Stith. He does not look at Stith as an ally. However, you know, you all decided that his methods were also not good enough. And Sikia had that amazing line of, you know, you choose the lesser of two evils, you're still choosing an evil. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to throw a question in here from a viewer. This is from our friend of the show, Nikki. Nikki wants to know, what was the most difficult thing to role play? And what was your favorite roleplay moment from the season? Anyone can jump in on that. I'll answer this one too at some point. It's a thinker.
Where there were a lot. I mean, I really enjoyed role-playing Hyde. Well, the whole thing with Killian was really fun, especially towards the end, you know, and like, I was like angry, dude. Like at the end of that fight, I was like legitimately like frustrated and angry. And he wanted my gold and I didn't have any gold. I'm like, here, I'll give you 3 gold and I'm going to spit on it. And
which turned into a great moment.
Yeah, you know, and because I was legit like angry. And then like, you know, that there was a note there that had like my wanted poster, and like that was cool too. You know, I was not expecting that at all. And that turned into like something personal for me. So I enjoyed role playing that I'm being immersed in that situation. That was cool. And also being hunted alive is like something that has never happened to me before. So it was cool.
It's an experience. Yeah.
For me, so Gamorg is kind of the antithesis of me. I'm not talkative. I guess I'm kind of goofy, but not talkative. And so like I created this character that I wanted to be talkative and like energetic and silly. And I knew it was going to be a challenge, and especially the first episode, I actually, almost everything Gamorg says when you first see him, I had memorized. I mean, I had like come up with all this. It's ridiculous.
And that was the end of season 1.
It's the end of season 1. Yes. So
that's such a great little tidbit. I love that.
Yeah, I couldn't just like do that. I had to like very intentionally sit down and think about like, okay, what is like a machine gun, just a ton of just word vomit that I could come up with to just have him say.
What would Andrew do in this situation?
yeah, that's probably my inspiration. But so yeah, that was challenging. And then all throughout the season, there were moments when I'm like, all right, I got to be Gamord. Like I need to talk. I need to like be weird and do weird stuff. I mean, so that was kind of like the challenging and also my favorite part was just coming up with those silly moments of like Sikia was trying to find a bug and Gamord just interprets as she wants to eat the bug and stuff like that. Just stupid stuff like that. So,
well, and it makes for such a great character because like Sikia is very sweet and Hyde's very focused, but both of them are kind of a little more on that serious note of we're on mission. And then Gamord kind of flies in and provides that foil to their characters. But at the same time, like get you in combat and you're ruthless. Like you're stabbing people in the face and, just going all in. And I love that for the character to be like both goofy, but also like a formidable warrior.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a Joe play style in general, is getting to stab things.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know what that says, but
I don't know.
I'm not going to think too hard about it.
No. Yeah, I guess both the challenging thing and the most rewarding thing about playing the character that I've made in Siki is that like Siki is not quite, but almost a pacifist. Like she doesn't want to fight things. Like when I built out the character, I built it very wisdom and arcana, and she's very wise, but she's not very good at hitting things. But then she's part of a monster guild, so like I feel like there's a lot of complexity there. Like she'll kill things that need to be killed, but she's not just gonna go in, guns blazing for no reason whatsoever. So that was kind of both fun and kind of challenging to play a character that's kind of built a little differently than a normal combat character, I guess.
Especially thrust into this fight for survival.
Right.
And, having that pacifism put to the test very quickly.
Right. Well, and it's not so much that she herself is a pacifist. It's more that her people are very nomadic. They're very much like, oh, this is your land. We'll just move on. They don't want to cause fights with anybody. And so it's a little going against her culture to even, pick a fight with somebody or to stand up in a fight.
Andrew, here is your reminder.
Oh, there's my Alexa reminder to take my evening medication. I'll do that right after this. Take your meds, folks. For me, I mean, I think my favorite moments, probably my favorite moment to role play was Erevin's grief in the beginning with Mechan's death. And kind of similar to you, Joe, like I knew that was going to be something that was going to come up immediately. And so like, I didn't like rehearse it, but I had a lot of thoughts in my head of like how he would react and had time to kind of plan that. And from an acting standpoint, that was fun to kind of dive into those deep emotions. And then kind of the same with his speech at the end. Like I was, I had kind of like my ABC option, depending on what you all did for how he would react, and getting to kind of bounce back and forth with you all on that was good. Challenging wise, honestly, I have a really big challenge when it comes to like things like the speak with dead and whatnot, because it just keeps you on your toes, right? And you've got to really think through, that level of like, what do I as the DM want them to know? What information do they earn? And how cagey do I make this dead person in relation to them? How much does this dead person know? It's written in the spell that they may reply enigmatically. Well, okay, so how far do you take that? That can be really tricky because I want to reward the fact that you're using the spell and you've come up with all these questions and whatnot, but also it's not a computer terminal where you can just type in an answer or type in a question and get an answer. So those are challenging, but a lot of fun. I love those moments. So,
and I feel like we did Speak with Dead like a lot, like more than
3
I've
times.
ever done in any other campaign with people. So.
Yeah, well, you did it twice in episode 3 because you did it to both Meccan and the Imp creature, and then you did it in episode 7.
It's like 8 or 9, I think. Or yeah. It's when
no,
we were
because
in the
it was the
woods.
halfling man that was like
Yep.
half phased through the tree.
Yep.
Mhm.
They're
yeah.
so distinct because like Meccan was like we had killed him, and so like that was weird. And then you guys, Gamorg didn't have a relationship with him, but you guys did. But then the Imp was just very creepy and weird, and then the halfling guy, that was like so sad.
That was sad.
It was very sad. And it was, I mean, side note, just it was fun to score those different moments too, because like the vibe during all of those scenes was so different. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, for anybody who has enjoyed our show, it's worth a second watch just to listen to Joe's score. It's really incredible. So yeah.
Dude, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like we have so much fun, and it's such a great game to play with you guys. But like listening to the score, it like absolutely makes the show. Like you can tell that you took time and you like watched it and scored to that, and then watched some more and then scored to that. Like it's perfect like that. So, dude, such a good job.
And my favorite thing is in combat, the way you'll change the combat themes depending on who's up in initiative.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, come on. What other show has that? Come on.
It's such a great touch.
Benji, do you have another question?
Yeah, so like the fissures and the plains, like when that started happening in the little canyon where we were at, I'm wondering, did that happen like everywhere? And also, was this the first time that was happening? Like, was everyone in the realm like freaking out, or was this just happening to us in this very exact place? I'm just kind of curious about that.
That's a good question. Some of that is to be explored in season 3. Some of that, there are hints in the other productions that we've put out. In At the Edge of Greenwood, Knights of Excessa, not Ryan Dim Heist so much. That's a little more localized. But if you remember from Elgar talking to you all, you know at least that the fissures and the rifts have been happening outside of Ferrith and into the Saints Preserve. So it's at least happening across the southern border of Alson. And whether or not that continues up is something you'll have to find out. But you know that it's not just this one-time localized thing that Meccan did. Which, yeah, we'll see where that leads to.
And then was Knights before or after what we're doing right
fun.
now?
This is a perfect segue. I get to plug the fact that we're actually putting together a timeline graphic right now that we'll be putting out here in the next couple of months that will show the chronological order of all of our productions from everything we've produced through season 3 and where those all fall. So what I can say is that Knights actually happens before. Knights and Ryan Dim Heist happened just before Realm Shield and Wasteland, and the In at the Edge of Greenwood spans that time. So some episodes of In at the Edge of Greenwood are happening simultaneously or perhaps even just after our current season. And then obviously all the evocations are much before that because those are all your backstory episodes. So yeah. Melissa, do you have a question?
So for Joe and Benji, will we hear more about your characters' backstories in season 3?
I mean, I think if it, naturally comes up, then yeah, I would love to kind of like delve more into that for both of us. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think hinted at some interesting past with Gamorg specifically and his parents and kind of all that stuff. So it'd be interesting to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, for me, I hope so. I mean, I built a whole document of Hyde and his backstory, and I like named his parents and all this stuff. So like,
I've already started
exists.
using it against you. So yes.
You already did, yeah. So that exists, and some of the places that we're going to be exploring, it sounds like, are parallel to kind of like the path that Hyde took. So I'm assuming that it might come up, and I'd be excited to explore it when it does.
What about you, Siki? Do you think that we're going to hear more about Siki and get to know her on a deeper level in this upcoming season?
I think so. I mean, it kind of depends on where the story goes, but considering they're in different places right now, you know, it'll be more of a one-on-one with her at times. So that'll,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and without giving away anything, because I know you and I have been having a lot of conversations around Siki and where you want her character to go. Could you maybe talk just a little bit about where her mindset is currently? You know, end of season 2, where is Siki psychologically at this time?
Psychologically, well,
or emotionally or spiritually, or, you know.
I mean, she's confused. She doesn't know where her friends are. And she's also kind of frustrated, but so her whole thing is like, whatever they're fighting is not something that they can just fight. They can't just swing fists at it and hope it all resolves itself. Like, she's starting to understand that whatever's happening here is a symptom of a bigger problem that's happening elsewhere. And so I think there's going to be a lot of her digging and maybe talking to other people, you know, maybe talking to people who would know things about the history or what's going on type of thing. And yeah, hopefully we'll get some answers.
For sure. All right, who's up? I think it's
Well,
Jim.
my question was actually directly related to that. I was just curious, like so like it or not, she's got a little bit of downtime at least right now while she figures out where she is and what's going on. So what is she going to do? What's the first thing she said she wanted fish? What's another, like, she mentioned a bath earlier and stuff like that. Like what's the to-do list for Sikia now that she's out of danger and has some time to herself?
That's a really good question. Lots of books, probably lots of reading and research and things like that. Probably lots of trying to figure out where her friends have gone and why she's stuck where she is, type of thing. Yeah, and just kind of trying to get a handle on the bigger picture and also things that might be changing with her. So trying to figure out how that all connects to the story.
I'm excited for it. We haven't started recording yet as of this wrap up, so it's all still unknown and mysterious, and I can't wait. Another question from a viewer. This is from our friends over at Nature Check, which is an awesome actual play running D&D 3.5 that everybody should go check out. Nature Check wants to know, and this is very apropos for a nature-based, science-based actual play, what landscape from season 2 was your favorite and why? Because obviously, even though the season was called Wasteland, you all ended up in various environments. So yeah, what was your favorite landscape and why?
I'll go first because it's obvious for me, but Hyde grew up around the jungles, and I'm pretty sure that they're the same jungles. They feel like the same jungles where I kind of grew up. And I love that little moment of like, Gamorg asked me, like, is that a good tree? And I'm like, yeah, that is a good tree, you know? And it just felt so right, you know? So I missed that. My character missed that. And I feel like that was probably my favorite place.
I'd have to say it's probably where she is now, just because she's close to water. And as fun as it was in the Wasteland and checking out different environments, you know, Siki is drawn to the water. So yeah, it'll be fun to.
Yes, I debated whether or not you should be one of the people that ended up on the ship in the water, and I was like, I don't want to take that away from her, but it made more narrative sense for you to be where you are. So
At least I'm near water now.
there's a lake nearby. There is a lake nearby.
True.
Yes.
The Wasteland was really cool. I mean, that was like very scary and weird and mysterious, like not knowing what kind of weird creatures might be out there and stuff. But I think my favorite is the Silver Forest, just walking through that, and the description of like, even though it's broad daylight, like it's like moonlight coming through and everything's very soft and blue. I just thought that was really unique and cool. Kind of felt like what's the Lothlorien and Lord of the Rings, like when they go in there and it's all like, it looks like twilight all the time. It's cool.
Yeah, kind of a similar inspiration for sure. I really enjoyed the Lightning Gorge, and I really enjoyed being able to build an encounter around an environmental aspect, and that whole like, rolling for lightning and having to find shelter. And it's interesting because it's a frustrating type of encounter because there is nothing to fight. You can't fight the lightning. So it's definitely making the players think differently about how do they potentially use their skill set, and how do they survive this versus, combat. And that also was able to tee up a lot of the interplanar stuff as well, which is fun. So yeah, that was my favorite terrain, I guess, landscape. I think that brings us back to Benji. We're going to go around one more time before we start to wrap things up.
Nice. I just want to know from like everyone, like what your favorite moment was, or like a little scene or anything, like little golden nuggets. What's your favorite little golden nugget?
I know mine was the sitting around the campfire talking about going home and like, what are we going to do when we go home type
Such
of
a
thing.
good moment.
That was just a very what'd you call it? Nostalgic campfire, moment. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Such a good kind of deep breath before the plunge, for sure.
I think I have a lot of favorites. One of my favorites was like right after, so we were all as early in the season, we had just talked to Erevan about the plan and what we're going to do and stuff. And there was some conflicting opinions on what we should do going forward and stuff. And then me and Hyde are like, you want to just go kill something? And then we just take off and go.
The random hunting episode. Yeah, throwing me for
good.
a loop immediately into the, I'm like, oh, we're splitting the party. Okay, cool.
I just felt like that was such a great like character building for our two characters. Like for one of us to just be like, hey, let's get out of here. This is boring.
Dude, we became bros after that.
Seriously, yeah.
And
yeah.
It's like I had no health. Like I had like maybe 19 points of HP or something, and we went into like against a giant insect, and I was like, dude, this is the worst case scenario. But
yeah, and I got grappled by him, and he's like attacking me while I'm in his jaws.
I was fully ready to kill one of you off. I was like, look, y'all made this decision. Like, yes, it's a show, but I'm not, you can't take the danger out of it.
You warned us. There were all the tracks and the holes and everything. Like, it was like, all right, whatever this is not small.
Like, it was everything except like a Looney Tunes sign being planted going, turn back now.
Mm-hmm.
It was great, though.
It was fun. It was a great episode. What about you, Benji? What's your favorite moment? I'm still thinking of mine.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, watching all the episodes, like I feel like I find a few in each. I feel like one of my favorite ones was just having to camp out like in our second night, and we didn't have any cover, and like the discussion about the trench, and then going on
Do we
like
dig a
the
trench?
giant,
Yes.
and then going on the giant mammoth skeleton and like the whole thing with the skeleton peering through, like that was super dope. So I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was fun to build this season around, because there's an element of this season that was a little linear and maybe a little on rails of your marching north, right? There's not really a whole lot to do other than march north. And so then having to like build kind of these checkpoints for you all and plot points and cool encounters along the way. So because I didn't want to get into, and there's nothing against this for a longer campaign, but I didn't want to get into like rolling for random encounters or anything like that. I was like, that could go one of two ways. Either you're going to get nothing or you're all going to get pummeled. But it was fun to like kind of save all my eggs in the basket for like these big encounters. Gosh, there's so many. And I think about editing the show and just all the fun little moments where everybody was so serious and then like broke character on stuff. And I love those moments playing games. But probably my favorite thing as a DM was in that final episode, getting to see your reactions when Erevan drops the hood, and then getting to see your reactions when you found yourself on the ship and at the inn. It's hard to surprise players and make it also feel earned. And I hope I did that. It's, it's certainly a kind of a, okay, you got knocked out and wake up in a new place plot device. But hopefully it's exciting enough that like it ropes you in. But I had that in my head. I did not have that in my head at the beginning of the season. I was not 100% sure how we were going to end season 2. But I kind of came up with that about halfway through. And so having to keep that close to the vest and waiting for you to call on Erevan, waiting for you to message him again, because you didn't do it until near the end of the season. And knowing in my head what was going on behind the scenes and it's about this point that Erevan starts talking to Stiff. And it's about this point that the council finds Erevan. You know what I mean? Like, that was really fun to see that come to fruition finally. All right, Melissa, you're up next.
I have a question for Joe, since you have been doing all the scoring for all of this. What was your favorite episode and or moment to score?
I think I have a lot of those too, but I think my favorite would be the last like 10 minutes or so of the whole season. That was like the because I remember from playing, that whole scene with the guys in the hoods and the torchlit room and everything, and then it all kind of ramps up to this guy casting this weird spell and flash of light and all that stuff. That just felt very like epic fantasy, scary horror almost, like, to me. So I had, from almost like right after we played that scene, like I had ideas for what I wanted the music to be. And then so then writing that, like Sika's taking a stand and her little speech there, like building up to that moment when they get zapped into different places. That was really fun. Like that was something that I kind of indulged and just went crazy with a little bit. So probably that one.
Awesome. Joe, do you have a final question for us?
Yes, it's a very deep question for Benji. What is Hyde's favorite food?
Gamorgan needs to know this to cook.
Yes.
Man. I think at this point it's definitely not bacon, because we've been eating that, I feel like, every day.
Blasphemy.
I don't know.
It's always bacon.
I feel like, yeah. I feel like he's a fruit kind of guy. He grew up around the jungle, so it's probably a lot of like coconuts and mangoes and big juicy fruits. So probably be my guess.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. And then my final question is from Michael, who plays Elgar. I'm going to kind of group these together. Michael wants to know what happened to Elgar, and if he gets to bring him back at any point. To which I will say there is a potential short spin-off episode that we are hoping to do that explores what happened to Elgar and Terwin after they left you all in the forest and went to retrieve the rest of their paladins. So, that's not 100% in production, but it's something I would like to do, and I know Michael wants to do. And so maybe we'll get to see that story. As far as if he gets to bring Elgar back, I think that's up to all of you. What would you, would Elgar be someone you'd be calling on to help in the fight?
I feel like when he left, we were all like, don't leave. Like, we need you. So, yeah, I would
For
welcome
sure.
him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And he also, like, his talk about like honor and all that stuff, like I feel like that rang pretty that was pretty significant to Hyde. So I think like if we're thinking about allies, like that would be someone that I would think about right away.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like what was the name of the group of paladins that he was with?
The Paladins of the Saints Preserve.
Yeah, Saints Preserve. I feel like that's like a very Kaer Morhen type of thing. Like I feel like it's just like a bunch of like, I don't know, what happens when you put a bunch of priests/warriors together. Like I think that's a really fun thing to explore. So yeah, I'd love to see his character back.
Yeah, it was really fun from a lore building aspect to introduce that character, to begin to flesh out the larger world and the different kind of factions of Alson. And, in some of our other shows, we've explored, the knights of the capital city and some of the vagabonds and thieves of the coast. But the Saints Preserve hold a very dear place in my heart from a lore standpoint. Just from what they kind of represent politically for the country, and just they bring that religious aspect, which is really interesting to play with in these settings. So while it wasn't a full-on adventure in the Saints Preserve, it was fun to bring that character in and just kind of again slowly begin to pull the lens wider on this world and to see more than just Realm Shield, with trying to not get away from the point of the show, which was to start with these monster hunters and stay with them, but also to ever so slowly let their lens be widened. So yeah. Well, awesome. That's going to wrap up our Q&A time. But before we go, we've been talking a lot about potential things for season 3 and what we might find out. So without further ado, I want to announce the official title for the First Watch Season 3. And that is going to be the First Watch Plane Break. So I'm curious, as all of you find yourself either at an inn or on a ship, and as we get ready to film Plane Break here coming up, what are all of you looking forward to the most? What's on your mind going into filming season 3?
Well, for me, it's like, what now? Like, we're on the ship, who knows where? We could be thousands of miles away for all we know. And yeah, like that's a pretty interesting place to start, because like we had been building, like you said, it was almost like a on the rails story. We were building towards this, like we got to get to the tower, like we got to get up north, whatever it was. And now it's like we're so far away from that. So I'm curious just to see where this is going to go.
And don't forget, you've got Cricket there as well.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother wrinkle. So
yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's not only what now, but like, how are we gonna be able to do anything about this? I feel like it's above our pay grade, but being the type of people that we are, I feel like we're all gonna try to do something about it. And that's exciting. And I don't know, I feel like Hyde is a very loyal friend and he's very focused about finding Siki. So I feel like that's probably top of the list, and it's probably not going to happen for a while, and that's all right. I'm kind of nervous about Luna on the ship, and that's going to suck.
Yeah, I nerfed your dire wolf. I put her on the water.
Yeah.
So we'll see how
one
that
of the few
goes.
ways that you can do that.
Right.
So.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think one of the main priorities is going to be trying to figure out how to get the gang back together. Um, but past that, just trying to figure out how to fit the pieces of the puzzle together and trying to figure out what the end solution is going to be.
And the fun thing is that we will, little tiny spoiler for season 3, we will be starting our stories separate as well. So depending on what the players do, we'll see how long that lasts. But episode 1 will follow Gamorg and Hyde. Episode 2 will cut back and follow Siki, and we will ping pong back and forth that way until they manage to find themselves together, if they do. So it's going to have a very different feel as well, structurally, to the previous seasons, which I'm very excited about. So
Very cool.
all right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging with us, for your questions, for coming along with us on this ride. We're super excited for Plane Break to be coming out here in late 2021. We start filming here in the next couple of weeks, most likely, and we'll have a release date coming out soon for when episode 1 will be dropping. But in the meantime, don't forget to join us on the 17th and the 24th for an evening at the Inn at the Edge of Greenwood, our soundscape from the inn, and then on the 24th our one-shot Lamond and Hoki for some crazy artificer fun, masterfully DM'd by Connie from Transplanter. Absolutely amazing work that they did. So yeah, in the meantime, let's take us out with that wonderful music one last time, and we'll see you at Plane Break.